great. I can hear myself awful. I should not mute my own stream. That would be awful to hear. All right. I think that's it. We are. So let me lay out what my plan is for today. I have this beautiful MS Paint. I have a drawy thing. It's going to be great. First, I'd like to. Oh my god, it doesn't work at all. Nice. I'd like to talk a bit about how. Oh my god. I'm dragging. Great. All right. We're not using a pen. That thing doesn't work at all. Goodbye. Go. Alright, we're just going to use my mouse. First, I'd like to. I can just use words. First, we're going to talk about BepInEx, how it's set up, how it works. Then, project setup. Then, I have priorities, so I'm just going to fix that. Roll up. I think those should be. That's what we're going to do. In that order. So let's talk BepInEx first, or BepInEx. I have no clue how to pronounce it. Let's give this a nice box. All right. So we have our game, and in this case it would be Risk of Rank 2. And it normally runs, and it runs in Unity. And what BepInEx does is it says, that's very cool, you have a game and you have Unity that's laying on top of it. And it says, well, how about, oh my god. It says, very cool. Let me just type that in correctly. Let me just go to a multitude of places. Let me go over here, and you know what? I'll go. Perfect. I hate it. Over here and over here. So what this allows us to do is, let me move this a little bit up. Oh my god, I'm very good and very not stressed already because of presentation things. And you're like, well, that's a lot of things to do. So what's each step? Right before the Unity engine loads, we get an opportunity to interact with it. And this is, actually, let me use different boxes for this to make clear we're inserting it. You get this phase, which is the preloader phase, and I make this box way too small. Let me just type first. We have the preloader phase, in which case patchers will get loaded. You don't need to worry what patchers are. And yeah, patchers get loaded, and that's all you basically need to know. Generally, you don't, as a mod developer, don't need to be here unless you're doing something that is important to act before the other two things. So before Unity itself loads, and well, I shouldn't make a box just yet. I should type something. And there is the plugin step, which is the chain loader step. It's generally, it doesn't matter too much what it's called. And we are just going to, I should have used different boxes, it's fine, I'll just fill them or something later. Let me move this box a little bit down. All right. So the plugins get loaded right here in between Unity and the game. And well, because they get loaded, they can do stuff during the game. So this little arrow is actually a bit wrong. So let's make some line. It goes straight to plugins. It goes to preloader patchers. So BepInEx, let's just insert between the preloader. Let's just make preloader patchers which can act on Unity and plugins, but also make plugins which can act on the game, which is generally what most mods are. It does this by, do we care? Well, this is generally how it works. So let's put it right here. So I made a few preloader patches myself, but we're not going to do that today. Today we're just going to focus on how to do plugins. Ooh, arrows. But first, let us do some project setup. I have my beautiful folder where I will be programming in today, but I also have, let me pull up Steam library. If you go to the library, go to Risk of Rain 2, you can see I have a modded here, but we're not going to be using that today. I'm going to browse local files. You will see I have a BepInEx installation here, which is not what we're going to be using today. Let me just put that in here and then back this entire thing up. Zip. We're just going to back that one up. We're not going to use it today. I'll just leave it here. Delete BepInEx folder. So besides this particular file over here, this is a vanilla game install. We can actually move this away so we can make sure it's a vanilla install. We just move it over here. So what we're going to do today is a little bit different than most plugin developers do, but I think it will make us a little bit better. It will help us run the game into the. It will help us, get along with our projects faster than otherwise done. So, how BepInEx insert himself? Actually, let's just download. Let's just download. I have this tab open that I shouldn't have open because it has private information. Instead, I should this tab open, which has nothing. Let's go to Thunderstore, and we're just gonna grab BepInEx, no, R2 AP, not R2 API just yet. We're just gonna get BepInEx back, and manual download. Great, you can see all my downloads. It's great. Don't worry about it. I have nothing illegal. Nothing to hide. In fact, but you think, but Harb, this is not the Risk of Rain folder, this is not how you should install games, and I'm saying you are right. In fact, we're going to go to doors.config, and we're going to see where you see these options here. You're like, wait, this tells us exactly where the thing is. That's right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here, config, core, and you see this should point to this thing over here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to grab the entire URL string. I'm going to put it here. Don't forget the slash here, so that it matches this place. And this is just for the testing setup. And when we do this, we can move these two right here. Apparently I have doors.config already. And with these two down here, we can just put up Risk of Rain 2, probably through Steam. And we will see a console. So this is basically just running from our code folder, allows us to easily swap between installations if we want to. But this is just the installation for today. So we don't need to boot up the entire game to verify BepInEx is working. So let's get R2 API as well. That's a lot of other mods. And let's just install it normally. And it should, if we start up Risk of Rain 2 again, I should probably just bin it for now. bin and binnet1. So we see that monomod has found a thing, and if we go back to the console again, we'll see that R2 API is also running, and the game is just starting and everything is great, so we can stop that. Alright, so we have our thing running. Alright, so in this case we're going to make a new project. I'm just gonna make a default project for today. Create a new project. I have a template set up for empty RoR2 plugin, but we will not be using that today. I'm just going to use a class library instead. So when clicking the thing you want to do is, I have C# selected. All platforms is probably not what we want, but it's fine. We're going to C#, all platforms, and project type is library. And now we have a bunch of different options if I didn't select machine learning. And there are a lot of them. And what we actually want here is the .NET standard one or the .NET framework one, but probably the .NET standard one because that's what BepInEx recommends, but I recommend it just works. It works fine. So we're gonna need a place. This is going to be f/code and project name. Well, what are we modding anyway? I actually have not thought about that one. So, you know, we're just gonna say, actually I have no clue, hello sayer. Whenever we'll figure out what it does later. You can change it anyway. It's just hello sayer for now. I've clicked this checkbox. Normally if you do multiple mods in the same project, then you wouldn't do that, but in this case we're doing a single project with a single mod in it. So then we get Visual Studio, it gets hello sayer, and it has nothing, absolutely nothing. It's awful, it sucks, and you cannot do anything with it. That's not entirely true. Well, first things first, we're going to need to add some dependencies. So we're going to go to dependencies and right click it and click add project references. And I'm going to browse. And then by browsing we get, these are the right libraries, but we're not going to be using those today. We're going to go to our code folder, BepInEx back BepInEx, and we're going to go to core, and we're going to say we want BepInEx. We don't really need any of the other ones just yet, so I'm going to add them as I use them, but we only need BepInEx right now. However, we do also need a little bit more, which was where risk of rain folder, because we also need to be able to reference risk of rain 2 and Unity. So we're going to in the risk of rain 2 folder, we're going to go to the data folder, the manage folder, and we want assembly C#. Do we want assembly C#? I actually don't know. We don't want it yet. We don't care yet. That's not. We're just making a plugin right now. So you're going to go to the Unity engine, DLL. DLL standing for Dynamic Linked Library. I'm not sure. DLL is how we'll call it and what we'll use. So we're going to add these two. These are the basic two you need for any plugin for BepInEx. Not Risk of Rain, not Valheim is also Unity, Monster Train is Unity, but these two are needed in every plugin across all those different games. So now that we have added those assemblies, we can say, well, it's class 1, that's a shit name. Let's remove class 1. We don't care. In fact, we want to make a new class. Right click, hello sayer, click new item. And you see all these things. I have a tweak template, we're not doing it. We're going to go to class. We're going to say, no, it's not going to be called class 1. We're going to say hello plugin, because it's a plugin and we're going to make it say hello. And so the class hello plugin does nothing, but we want to tell BepInEx and this thing that this is going to be a plugin entry point. So this thing that the game can call, and well, BepInEx can call and load into the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to type double colon. I'm not sure how it's called in English. I'm going to zoom in a bit because I think this is quite hard to read otherwise. Can I actually tools options? Can I just scale everything? I don't see it. I don't see it very much. So we're going to go and cancel whatever. I'll just zoom in on text. We don't need these. All right. So we're going to type here BepInEx dot base Unity plugin, and it's like it will complain to us. It will say, it's very good actually that it complains to us. It says the following: the type mono behavior is defined in assembly that is not referenced. You must add a reference to assembly Unity Engine .core module version 0 culture neutral public key token is null. So how do we solve such that issue? Well, we go to our dependencies, we say add project reference, we're going to browse again. We are still not in the right spot automatically. It's fine. I think it's still on my, yeah, I still have this on my hotkey. Go to managed, and we're going to go look here in this folder, and we see the core module right here, the thing it asks us for. So we're just going to add that one. Can I zoom in here? I can zoom in a bit. I don't know, it's actually zooming in much. Nah, it's not making things much lighter. We have it here. I'm just going to add it. Okay. And now it will say it will stop complaining. And in fact, it will suggest us, like, it will do suggestions, add accessibility modules, but we don't care about that one. What we do want to do is actually remove this, because we don't care to know. We know it's BepInEx. So what we're going to do is type using BepInEx. This will tell us, pull everything in that's inside the BepInEx namespace, and just then it allows us to type it directly. In this case, base Unity plugin. And now there's a few things that we need to do that can happen. There is the awake public, awake it's a function, takes no arguments, and what it will do, it will be the first thing that's called when our plugin loads. So if we go back to our beautiful scheme, our beautiful thing, it's going to be called right there. That's when it will get called at the start of the plugins. So we're just going to say to BepInEx, logger is provided by being a base Unity plugin. We get a logger, and we can say the logger log message. Well, this isn't hello sayer, so what's going to say? It's going to say hello. And I have the second thing to do. Let's start. And start is going to do the same thing, but let's say a little bit of different message. Hello again. And I keep using the wrong button. So we have basically this all we need for a mod. It does something, it says hello, and it says hello again. It is, by all means, it is a mod. It's not a very impressive mod, but it is one. So how do we run this mod and test it? Well, we're going to go to build over here. We're not going to click build solution, or we could click build hello sayer. The difference between these two is that build solution will build all your projects in this folder, but we only have one hello sayer. And if you're making mods, you're probably interested in using the single one. You can see here it uses a hotkey. You can use a hotkey as well, but we won't be using that today because hotkeys are very cool, but I cannot show them on screen. So now that we built it and we're like, okay, build succeeded, it says in the bottom left corner over here. But okay, now what? Well, that's right, it doesn't do anything. And if we look here to hello sayer, we see there is no DLL file here. That's in fact, they get placed into the bin, and then the debug folder, because we have selected debug over here in the top of our screen. We can also put this to release, and if we click build there, we will see that it also makes a release folder. I wish I could zoom in more, but it doesn't look like well. We'll be staying on release, it doesn't matter much. And in release, we'll see net standard 2.0, and we'll see all our things are like, wait a moment, that's way too much. We only want one. So what happened in that case is that we have our assemblies, and they are actually, I miss a button. That's not the button I was looking for. We're going to click all these, and we're going to click properties. And we say copy local to false, or no in this case. And close that, save everything. And if we build again, we will see that suddenly we only have 3 things left in our folder. Dependencies.json, we can open it up, you can see, oh, it has these libraries that it needs to run. We don't care actually, it's fine. We have a program debug file, which is used for debugging, which I've never learned to bother to set up. Alright, so we have our DLL file here, that is for our mod. At this point I'm actually going to open a new window so that we have so we can quickly switch between them. And in plugins we're just gonna put hello sayer here. We could put it in our new folder called builds or something, I don't know. It doesn't matter as long as it's in the plugins folder in the BepInEx folder. And now if we run the game, we will see. Let me open this up. Yeah, thank you, Monomod. Alright, so we have this entire log, and in fact I'm not going to care at all, and we're just going to close down the game because we got all the information we needed already. This is in the log file, and we actually see, wait a moment, our plugin isn't loaded because skipping over type hello, because no metadata attribute is supplied. And you're like, but what is metadata? Let me zoom in a bit. What is metadata attribute? And that's right, because BepInEx, it needs to know what is your plugin, what does it do. You can have multiple plugins in the same DLL file. So what we type is use an attribute, and we're going to tell it this is a BepIn plugin, this class, and it has a name, our GUID, and in this case it will be, what would be? I don't know, that's a really bad one. Let's just use and the last thing is what's going to be hello plugin. Let's do all lower cases here. It doesn't matter too much as long as it's unique. And we have a friendly name for humans. And the version will be 0.01 because we're still testing. And you see, this is one way of doing it, but what's more normal to do is we use, actually you would use public ones, public constants of the type string, and you will say, well, the GUID is this. I use the wrong key again because for my work I use a MacBook, and then you copy with the Windows key, and then we can just type GUID. Am I doing something wrong? Yes, because I'm in the namespace, I'm not in the plugin. So the namespace, it holds things, but it cannot hold code. It can hold classes, but it cannot hold actual assignments and actual working code. So we just put it in the class itself, and it says that's fine. And then this also says fine. And in fact, if we hover over it, it will tell us that's the string you defined. And if we do it like this, we could even go, well, you could do it like this, and then it would just work. And in fact, what's even more common is that you also remove this field from it. You just type as author, and you just say and you say that is me, and in this case it will work. So if we build hello sayer now, we have our thing here. I'll just And let me open the right folder, the plugins. Put hello sayer in here and replace the file. And now if we run the game, what we'll see, I kind of wish I didn't install R2 API just yet, but it's fine. It's a little bit low. We can close down the game at this point. Yeah, we can close down the game. Alright, so if we now look in our log output, we will see here it's loading R2 API, it has a bunch of data, but we're also loading the hello plugin. And it says hello. And if we go down further, we see a lot of warnings for the game starting up, but at the end, we see a message from the hello plugin that's saying hello again. So this tells us a few things. Where, going back to go to my image, the plugins get low. I need to take the whole arrow, otherwise we're going to leave weird artifacts. So the plugins has 2 points. It has the awake. Why am I red? Awake. It's fine, it will be red. And yes, the arrow is also red. Great, that's exactly what I meant to do. And start. And we'll find out that the box that we were using was not sufficient at all for the game. And we needed a bigger box because the game was still running. The game was still running, but there was a start. So the game is also divided up in a few stages. It goes through its own two things, and it says over here, it says its own awake, its own inside its own awake, and its own start. And you're like, but wait, that's exactly the same as our plugin setup, because that is true. The game is also built on Unity, and our plugins are also Unity. So that means we basically use the same tools that the game uses to make our plugins. And if we use lines, so we see that we get a little bit before the game. I'm going to use a little sharp arrows. And this is, our start is right before the game starts. And you're like, okay, but what is start exactly? And I'll erase these little dots that are, I hate it. Get out of here. What is start exactly? What's awake exactly? Well, Unity uses these things called mono behaviors, and our plugin is one, and the game is basically one for most of it. And a mono behavior is a Unity construct. So Unity has defined what it is, and only in Unity it holds meaning. But it goes through a few steps. The plugin is, the mono behavior wakes up. It's just created, basically. It has a start. And in fact, I'm going to pull up the Unity mono behavior lifetime. I think that will find us. Sure, might steal all my data. And we get this beautiful image over here, I would say, but yes, I accept all cookies, new profile and everything. And we see over here, if we take a close look, I'm zooming in way too much, and the image doesn't scale with it. Oh, we should a new tab. Yes, we can use this. So we see awakes the first thing, then we have an on enable. You can also use these in your plugins. We don't use that. And we have a reset, which is only an editor. We're not an editor. We have a start. So you see awake and start. And awake happens as soon as the plugin is attached or created, basically. And start is called at the first frame of the thing being enabled or created. So what this means in game context of Risk of Rain 2 is we first load Unity, then it loads a bunch of pre-game stuff like catalogs, items, survivors, characters, and then it starts the first frame of the game, which is the intro cutscene. and that's when our plugin says hello again, because we've told it. Because we've told during start, say hello again to the game, to the console. So then there's a bunch of other physics stuff we can also use. We have the fixed update. The fixed update happens. It's a physics update, so it happens at most 60 times per. For Risk of Rain 2, the game step is 60 times per second, so it happens at most 60 times each second. Whereas you also have the update, so not the fixed update, but the update. And the update runs every drawn frame. And you're like, what's the difference? Well, the game can run 120 frames per second, so there will be 120 update calls per second, but there will only be 60 fixed update calls per second. We also have late update, and all these others you basically don't need to worry about unless you know what you're doing. So we have on application quit, on disable, and on destroy. You could use on destroy and or on disable, or actually only those two, to make sure your mod is uninstallable during the game load time. But generally in Risk of Rain 2 modding, we don't worry about that. We just let the game run. I'm going on a tangent here. Let's just keep this one open. So with that out of the way, we have a plugin. It does basically nothing. It says hello, but it does something, and we can verify it works. This is a good way to check if your module actually does something. You don't actually need to be logging the message, because if we open up the log again, if we open up the log again, we will see that we could just verify it had worked if we looked for this particular message. We don't need to say hello. We know it works because BepInEx says it's loading. But now a workflow thing is to do what you saw me doing every time I built. I had to click here, drag it over there. That was awful. It was annoying to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to properties. We're going to build events. We're going to go to post build, and we're going to say, I would type here, but I actually don't know from the top of my head. So we're going to type copy target path, and I'm going to say where to go. You copy that to. That's right. You're going to copy that to the BepInEx/builds folder. I'm going to just copy the entire thing, paste it here, click OK, and I hope this works from the top of my head. I need to open this up. So if we delete it here and we click, let me just put this over here so we can see if anything happens. Make it smaller so we can have it side by side. And we click build now. So we will see it over here, and also it will get copied over here. Now, this is really smart, but if we build again, it also works. So it doesn't bother. So what happened is, as soon as we build something, it gets copied over to the bottom, and it allows us to iterate quickly, because once we click the build button, we know it's in the game folder. We don't need to worry about have we copied it actually. It's just there. So that would make things go faster. Now, to make mods that actually do something, there's a little bit more in-depth tutorial. I would want to go over there, but there's also other mods I want to make today go over. So I will not be doing that today. Maybe some other weekend I will have time to film or record me doing that. I think that's basically it for project setup. Let's move this folder over here. I am going to update R2 DSE. Now I'm going to use a little bit of a trick. We close this. I'm done with the Hello Sayer plugin. We'll leave this one open. What am I doing with my life? Yes. So R2 DSE is a bit of a different plugin. It is in fact a plugin for for the dedicated server, and I'm switching mental brains here, what I'm doing. And so, like the same, we will edit this config file, and we will say, hey, instead of using that folder, we will use this folder instead. So copy it. We say, yeah, use that folder instead to work on. So now that we launch the dedicated server, which I will also run once to check. Ooh, my library, risk of rain to dedicated server launch. Dedicated server is a lot less nice. It prints a lot of garbage into the console. It's awful, which is why we created R2DSE. You can see BepInEx runs. The game is starting up. In fact, if I boot up, also boot up the normal game. Let's spin this one. If we also boot up the normal game, we could connect to it, and I'll do that in a little bit. The dedicated server is a bit spammy, and we will find that if we connect to it. Yes. Alright, go to multiplayer, and we're going to join the multiplayer game. And I just realized I was talking to myself for a long time there. Great, the mute button that doesn't make a noise. So I was figuring out an issue which was really weird, where the console breaks. Trying to figure out why this is happening. So let's see if it still crashes if we just don't do anything, because in that case it will not be our fault. In fact, yes, we can see it does crash when we do nothing at all. So what if we do it without R2 API? So we have nothing running at all. Let's see if the console crashes, and in that case we cannot do much about it. Yeah. Very interesting, and I do not know how to solve that, and I'm going to stop right now and eat lunch. Yeah. In fact, actually, I don't think if we remove the monomod patcher, where is it opening? It's opening this, close this down. My last attempt here, see if this fixes it. No, there you saw the error again. So something is breaking it. I do not know what. Yeah. I'll try and figure it out later, but that's the end. We were at R2DSE. I would fix the other things, but that's later. Thank you for watching or tuning in. I'll probably chop this up in little bits for a modeling tutorial. I'll find out later I've recorded it. Yeah, talk to you later.